Hello, select group. Dr. Jay Stevens and myself, Dr. Elizabeth Sierakowski, have developed a wonderful relationship with you all and are honored to share some of our tips during this very challenging time. COVID-19 has made for unprecedented challenges medically, economically, and socially, which are leading to collective fears and anxieties about the unknown, as well as sensations of frustration and isolation for a lot of people. Today, I want to remind each and every one of you that the world and humanity have been through very significant global changes before, and they are always an opportunity for us to rise up and meet the challenge together. Most importantly, we must not ignore this tremendous social opportunity to flatten the curve. Our elderly, infirm, and immunocompromised friends, family, and compatriots are relying upon our collective efforts to self-quarantine. To paraphrase Margaret Thatcher in a very British quote, people are like tea bags. You cannot tell how strong they are until they're in hot water. While a few days at home feels like rest, a few more can feel very isolating, especially for those who are naturally extroverted, like many of you, and those who crave physical touch or feel uplifted being around others. And even stoic introverts do best with regular human interaction. Humans are not well suited to isolation, so it's very, very important for us to remember that this doesn't have to be isolating, that physical distance is not the same as social distancing. I had a very dark dream once where I was stuck under an enormous version of one of those weighted blankets, and one by one, people came and sat next to me, and over a time, there were enough of us to rise and lift the weight together, and the sun was rising. And I share that with you because sometimes we're not sure what the weight is, or we're not sure how to lift it ourselves. And it's about being together and doing this as a group. There are ways, and we're going to talk about this, to lean in even from a distance like this. But a lot of it has to do with actually connecting with people, hearing their voices, seeing their faces, not just texting, right, or online things. We learn not to minimize the struggle, not to ignore the difficulties and the feelings that we're feeling, but also not to give in to them. Winston Churchill, another just phenomenal quote, when you're going through hell, keep going. So what we're going to talk about today is to focus on what is in your control and to remember that suffering equals pain times resistance. I'm going to say that one again. Suffering equals pain times resistance. If we view the current circumstances as temporary, if we can find blessings and be grateful wherever we can, if we can reduce each other's pain, then suffering reduces tremendously, and we can get through this together. So one by one, the most important is we're going to talk about creating routine, embracing change and engaging in the moment, acknowledging feelings but releasing guilt. And the biggest reminder, again, and you'll hear me say this several times, this is about physical distancing, not social distancing. All right, so number one, we're going to go through kind of the EHW way, and at present my dog's lying down, but she might make an appearance because we're all at home. And if it's a little echoey, I'm sorry, I'm in my empty dining room. And for those who I saw at Topsail, I'll go ahead and show off because this is very exciting for me. We're getting there. So we're also in a baby watch mode. So if I'm bouncing, I'm on a yoga ball because it's much more comfortable. Here's Zelda. It's much more comfortable. So essential health and wellness, right? The vast majority of what we have already talked about, what we already teach, what we already do day to day in terms of optimizing human beings is what we can do now. It's how we protect ourselves and build our immune systems and protect each other. It's also how we get through hard times. So I'm going to break it down into categories, specifically related to feeling like we're stuck at home, right? Teleworking is really, really difficult. There's this sensation that there's no divide between work and home any longer because they're in the same place. For a lot of people, they do this day to day. My husband works from home every day, and it's a challenge, and we talk about ways to create boundaries because ultimately that's what it's about. The physical boundary of leaving the home and going to the office and then leaving the office and coming home is a very real one and a valid one, but often not as concrete as we think, in times like this. We're already online all the time. We're already checking emails too often. So this is not unlike a regular day. We just have to be a little more conscious about it. I want to make sure that there are times throughout the day where everyone's getting out of their head and into their physical body. For a lot of us, and especially at Select Group, you guys are really high octane, right? There's a lot of high energy. There's a lot of being used to going to the gym. That's a major social thing. It's a major routine thing. So coming out of that, and how do we still get moving to the caliber that you're used to at home can be a challenge. So there's a couple of things we can do. One is to remember that calisthenics can happen anywhere, right? You have your body, you carry it with you all the time. So there's plenty that can be done. One of my favorites actually is body weight exercises like Imam style. So every minute on the minute, you pick an activity. If it's push-ups for a minute and then take a break for 15 seconds, and then squats for a minute and then take a break for 15 seconds, and then burpees for a minute and then take, maybe not right after squats, that might be rough. But, build that for yourself, or you can do 45 seconds, 15-second break, and that way you stay on the minute, right? The Imam style. There's lots of ways to do this. And then separately, some of the hardest part that people struggle with is weights, right? What do you do outside of a gym if you don't have weights at home? And so I'm going to go through a number of household items that actually work really, really well. So lateral raises, you can use canned goods, anything that's kind of lighter that you can hold very far away from your body, or arm circles. You can bring it in when if you're a beginner, and if you're used to very heavy weights, then bring them farther away from your body. You can also do front this way. Wine bottles make pretty excellent overhead carry, right? So, or farmer's carry, you can put a couple in a bag on either side. So canvas bags, as long as you have the same amount of weight on both sides, can be marvelous for weighted squats and farmer's carries and overhead and thrusters and other things. Backpack is pretty great. Most people have some kind of luggage that they can fill with books or other household objects. Since you've only got one of them, and it's really difficult to make the same weight on two sides, that's something that's going to be best for squatting, back squatting, overhead pressing. Just be careful, because these are shifty objects, which actually makes them more of a functional movement, but you want to focus on form and be very, very careful and slow and deliberate in your movements. Some other you can get heavier, so large jugs of laundry detergent, bag of dog food if you have it, those can be pretty significantly weighty. Paint cans, again, unless they're both full and you know that they're even, otherwise just use one and squat. You can use things like kettlebells, just be careful, again, make sure the lid's on, etc. And you're not gonna fling something into the wall or hurt anybody, but get creative. There's a lot of things around the house that can be used if we pay attention. You can also get really creative outside of your home, right? Yard sprints, dancing, climbing a tree does not need to be done with another human being, although having a spotter, if you've got a friend, would be a good idea. We've got some neighbor of ours that we actually do dog walks on the other side of the street, so we can holler and talk to each other and keep our distance, but that way everybody's still outside. It's a great way to continue movement, which is everything. We also want to make sure that we're taking advantage of daylight, and I'll get back to that when we talk about routine. YouTube and apps are a great resource. Many places are putting up content right now. Yoga classes can be found online. There's lots of local business, so if there's any way for you to support a local business and take a class online, some of them are still paid, and it will help keep our local businesses in business, which would be a wonderful thing. The next big category is nourishment. This is one that people really struggle with when they're at home. I think, again, because they're out of routine. So we kind of run into two camps. I think there's a lot of people who are either over-relying on takeout because it's easy in their home and they're not sure what else to do. But if anything, I think the majority are really struggling from this guilt and pressure to make everything from scratch. Like, well, I'm at home and I've gotten all this food from the grocery store, and now I'm supposed to not only do my regular job and deal with all of this social distress that's happening, but I'm also supposed to be making paleo muffins every day, right? And there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. So we're gonna take all that off the table and remember that this is a balance just like every other day. So cooking at home is a good thing. Make things in batches. Make this easy on yourself. And then balance that with ordering when you need to order, right? If it's been a hard day and it doesn't matter that you didn't leave the house, it can still be tough. You can still have accomplished a lot. You can still be tired. And right now, ordering curbside or takeout is a great way to support the local food industry. So do your best to make healthy choices, right? So the biggest one is avoiding things like you don't want to order pizza every day. You don't want to snack all day long. So being at home, one of the biggest ones is mealtime gets hazy. Eat breakfast if and when you feel like it. Snack because you are bored, because you're in the kitchen. So be very, very careful about that. I don't recommend snacking while we're at home. You're moving less than you would normally, typically. So get up, move around the house, take breaks, but do it to take a water break or a bathroom break or something else, a dance break, but not necessarily a snack break all day. So try to keep that to regular meal times. Don't be afraid of dinner for breakfast or other things. Leftovers are not a bad thing. And right now what we don't want is waste, especially with the amount of, if there's a food insecurity question. And in some ways this is really cool because there's been this resurgence in the victory garden, right? People actually ordering seeds because it's springtime and you can plant stuff. And that is so super cool. So right now is a great time to do a pot or something on your porch or balcony or in your kitchen window, even if it's just herbs. It's a way to get out of the house if you need to go to like the plant center and keep your physical distance from people. Just make sure if you touch anything that you wash hands and don't touch your face. I'm trying really hard not to touch my face in this video. It's hard, right? So we wash our hands often because of that. I think that's a big one on nourishment. So the biggest key is routine. Make it easy on yourself. Don't have crazy expectations. But if you're bored, find a new recipe. Make those. So my Instagram, I posted, the Civilized Caveman has one of the best paleo banana bread recipes I have ever had. Ripe bananas, eggs, coconut flour or almond flour, some kind of nut butter, a little bit of baking soda, baking powder, vanilla spices. That's it. Super easy. You can add nuts or whatever, but they're awesome. They turn out great every time and they freeze really well, which is also excellent. Routine. So routine is everything. Everybody who's heard me talk has heard me talk before about daytime, nighttime architecture, because maintaining the circadian rhythm is everything. The human body doesn't do well in this sort of ambient comfort, ambient light. It's never really daylight. It's never really dark. We've always got some LED or blue or alarm clock or the street light or something. The temperature never really changes because we're inside and it's always air conditioned. And the body just sort of lives in this ambient, amorphous state of being all the time. Human bodies were not meant for that. This is why Wim Hof and his ice methods work so well. This is why stimulating the parasympathetics and the vagus nerve works so well. The body is intended and developed over millennia to be awake and uncomfortable and bright during the daytime and then cool and dark and still and quiet at nighttime. So we have to maintain that and keep that created in our own lives, especially when we're at home, right? So get up at your usual time, do your normal, right? Get your workout in, if that's with your dog food bag or your paint cans or your wine bottles or your backpack or just your calisthenics, that's fine, but move first thing in the morning. Take your shower, get dressed. Please do not stay in your pajamas all day. Every once in a while it's super comfortable and fun, but day to day it is one of the fastest routes to depression that I have seen. So maintaining the idea that we are up and awake and doing something with ourselves is really important. Make a workspace and keep it there. So workspace does not equal your bedroom. It is absolutely not your bed. I prefer it's not your couch, and I definitely prefer it's not your kitchen because it's way too easy to just kind of snack all day long. So if you can make that, if you have a home office, great. If you don't, you don't need one. It can be the kitchen table. It can be pillows on the floor and up and down. It can be a yoga ball. It can be anywhere. It can be your front porch. That's fine. But if it's possible to make your space, do your work there, leave the space when you're leaving work. And that continues to establish that boundary, even if it's within the context of your own home. So that one's really important. Stop working at stopping time. Oh, Zelda's got a bone, sorry. stop working at stopping time. Plan for evening activities. Do not get up and immediately check email in the morning. Get up and do your normal routine, and then come to work, to your workspace when it is working time. When it is lunchtime, take a break. When it is stopping time, stop. Go do other things in your home and leave the work in that physical location. So that physical boundary and then the time boundary are both what's really, really important. Use your evenings for social interaction, creativity, nourishment, and rest, and then keep your usual bedtime, which kind of leads me right into resting. So now is a really great opportunity to take advantage of there's no commute, right? So do a little bit of extra self-care. Meditation is always helpful. Actually, I'm going to show you one that I really like called turtle walking, and this comes out of Qigong. There's lots of different ways to do this, but the essential is a very, very, very slow walk that you don't fall down if you stop at any particular point. So I'm going to get up. This is going to look a little bit funny because of my belly, but we'll do this. So the goal here, is to pick up the foot and be balanced at any given moment, and then very slowly put it down. And again, at each moment, being very, very still, picking up, being able to stop, putting the heel down very deliberately, and walking forward. The beauty of this movement is that it's very slow and still, so it's a moving meditation. And for many of us with a lot going on in our minds, just to sit and try to is not going to work, right? Because our minds are going too crazy. And this isn't like whack-a-mole your thoughts and make them be quiet. It's supposed to be finding the stillness that's already there. So giving our body something to do, a sensory exercise, monotasking, especially if it's a little bit hard and requires balance and focus, works really, really well. It's part of why yoga is so beneficial as well. Wim Hof, I think most of you have heard of him through a select group. If not, go online. There's some great YouTube videos. Unfortunately, I can't do the breathing exercises in this stage of pregnancy, so if you are pregnant, don't. But there are some other really great slow and deep breathing exercises. But Wim Hof method of breathing helps to stimulate that vagus nerve and bring all of that parasympathetic tone up and the sympathetic fight or flight down, because we really want to balance that and maintain this nice, smooth, on when we're working, off when we don't need to, curve throughout the day. Let's see. Optimizing sleep. So some of these are the basics that I hope now is a great time to practice, but remember that sleep hygiene is everything. Don't use electronics right up until you're in bed. Really do not bring your cell phone to bed. I'm guilty. It's terrible. It doesn't work. It interrupts sleep. I can't wear my Oura ring right now because I have little sausage fingers. But as long as I was able to, it made it very, very clear that that was a very bad habit. Dark, cold, still, quiet. If you need white noise, that's fine. I've noticed there's a lot more landscaping happening right now. I think part of it's springtime, but also part of it is like, what else are people doing? So they're making sure that things in their home are happening in your neighborhood. So that might be making it difficult for you to focus or get things done. If something's happening at nighttime, like I said, a white noise or a fan or an air filter or something like that would be a great idea. Connection is my final point, but a really, really important one through all of this, and possibly the most important. You know, we can try to practice self-care, we can try to create boundaries, we can work to maintain productivity at home, but what is the most difficult when you feel that your routine is off and you're not going to the gym and going to work and going to the grocery store and going out is the human connection piece. It is critical, again, physical distancing, not social distancing, right? Please reach out to each other. Actually get on the phone and hear each other's voices. Video chat and conference whenever you can, especially related to work. If you can get things done and maintain that interaction, really, really important. Live time is better than pre-recorded. Like I'm staring at myself right now, which, you know, is some kind of company, I guess, but not the same. You really want the live interaction with another human being. Schedule group virtual events, and then get outside. You know, you can, I was born and raised in Virginia Beach. My husband was born in Connecticut. And so when we moved to North Carolina, being in the South was he's just super, super excited about it. And one of the pieces that was most exciting is this concept of porch hollering, right? So you're on your front porch or your balcony or you're wherever, and you holler at your neighbors. That does not happen in New England. It's just not a thing. But we live in this great neighborhood and we're able to do that. So right now, a lot of our neighbors are on their porches, or if we're out walking by ourselves or with Zelda, a lot of people are out and waving and saying hi, and you can still interact without being right next to each other, which is pretty great. Getting outside in any capacity, whether it's by yourself or with a pet or with a friend that's, again, on the other side of the sidewalk, but going and being outdoors and communing with nature is also a wonderful thing, not just communing with people, which is pretty great. If you are conserving financial resources right now, like many people are, there's still a lot that we can do. You can write letters to each other. You can make art or music, pray or meditate. Challenge lends itself to creativity and spirituality, right? And we can think about ways to give back to the community. If finances aren't super tight, now's a great time to buy a gift card at some of your favorite places or local small businesses. Hair salons are really going to struggle. Food industry is struggling. Massage places, tattoo parlors, anything where I think I said nail salons, but any boutiques, small clothing companies, lots and lots and lots of small business is going to have a really, really hard time. So any way that we can come together as a group to help support each other right now is really important. Buying gifts, having something show up to somebody else's house is a really cool and special thing. Getting actual mail in the actual mailbox is also a physical way to connect. I guess wash your hands after touching envelopes, but we know that the virus doesn't live very well on paper, so we should be fine there. Metal surfaces are a little harder. As we work to create light for others, we naturally light our own way. That was Marianne Rodmacher, and one of my favorite quotes right now. So to kind of sum up, we want to focus on right now, maintain a routine to retain a sense of normalcy. Move, nourish, rest your body. This is a great opportunity. We often say, I wish I had a vacation from my vacation, or a way to be at home and get things done, to take little breaks throughout the day. Use this opportunity for that. Be grateful for the time that we do have and for a home that is safe if you have one, right? And think about how many people are very resource scarce right now, and if there's ways to reach out and help them. Be gentle with yourself and your loved ones. This is a really hard time where spouses are, or partners are in a home together all day, every day, where they're not used to. Children are home. That's been a very difficult challenge for a lot of people. Home with pets all day, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy. So give yourself grace. If you had cereal for dinner, it happens, right? Don't be hard on yourself. Optimism is just as contagious as difficulty. Definitely more contagious than COVID, because you can spread it right through electronics, which is pretty great. And when all else fails, and you feel overwhelmed or anxious or stressed or frightened, remember, and this is a quote from David White's book, the Crossing the Unknown Sea, Work as a Pilgrimage of Identity. The antidote to overwhelm is not necessarily rest. The antidote to overwhelm is wholeheartedness. Right now is the time for all of us to throw our whole hearts into the circumstances, into caring for each other, into coming together as a community. Focus on what you might do for someone else to lift them up in these trying times. Do remember too that Essential Health and Wellness is here for you all now and always. Our consults can always be by telemedicine. I know I did quite a few before I just left on maternity leave. I swear I thought I was going to have this baby already, so we're just waiting. But I have a nurse practitioner, Chris Bailey, at the Raleigh office, who is helping and doing consults in my absence. She's marvelous. Dr. J is in the Cary office, and Jenny. I'll be back from maternity leave in early May, and anything we can do for anybody in the meantime, please let us know. Remember to be the light and be well. Take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.